Roger Tosis was a private investigator. I don't think you heard this. Roger Tosis was a private investigator, and he came onto our cause, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so he was down trying to investigate our issues. Mm-hmm. So he ran across the Army surplus. It was straight from the Army military property, the grounds of the military. They was having an auction on surplus things. And he seen something on a shelf, which he took an expert with him, an electronic expert with him. And his electronic expert said, buy that. And he said, are you sure? It's got a $50,000 price tag on it. He said, yeah, that's what we need, because they're investigating what we are going through. So mm-hmm. Roger Tosis bought it, and he brought it back, and his electrical team went over it, and they said, we need a group of TIs to see if this thing works. So he had a hearing, a conference in public that everybody could come, and the TIs came, and when they turned this thing on, they turned it on before everybody came. It was an empty building, and it was just barely reading the dial and the frequency, and it was even digital. It was barely reading. It's a frequency jumper. They could detect if they jump frequencies every second. The military, when they developed the technology to attack us with the directed energy weapons, mm-hmm. the military had to have some kind of technology to see if it's working, and that's what it was. So Roger Tosis bought it, and they didn't know what they were selling. Anyway, they had a conference of TIs coming, and it was kind of dead before anybody came. But once the TIs started coming, it was jumping frequencies every half of a second. It'd go from one frequency to another frequency to another frequency. What the technology was saying, that it's proving that the weapons coming from the satellites, cell phone towers, twin towers, wherever they might be coming from, is showing that it's doing a direct energy weapon attack on the building. Mm-hmm. And this device was showing it was jumping frequencies every half of a second. So how are you going to depend on something like that?
Okay, so this is exactly what I've been talking about. Okay, I'm glad. This is a great question. That's a great question. How do you defend against something like that? Okay. You have nanomachinery making conductive pathways in your body. It goes from implant to implant. There's tiny, 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 tiny little implants. People have bigger implants, but most people most of the time have these, I don't even know if calling them an implant is the right word. If you want to test this, by the way, if you've got any inductive heater, will do it. A ZVS driver does it. You know those welding, it's like to de-stuck bolts. I don't know the right term for it, but it's an inductive heater. Mechanics use it, and they'll put it right next to the bolt, and it will heat the bolt up like an inductive heater would. And it will, so with the heat, they'll be able to loosen it. You know what I'm talking about? Here, stay on so we can talk about this, because I want you to understand. Because you've been dealing with this so long. I want you to understand.
Yes.
Okay. So you can get one of those. It takes a while, but for about $300. I got one because I thought maybe I had already knew the implants were there, because I had done the same thing with a ZVS driver by accident. But I couldn't recreate the coil configurement to reliably have the ZVS driver interact with the implant. So anyways, I got this welding tool thinking that was going to be the key to popping these implants. I thought I could heat them up so intensely I could pop them. And this is just lucky, grace of God stuff. I took this thing and I took a soldering blanket and I put it around my body and I heated up trying to break these implants that I knew were there. I just didn't know anything else about them, what they were doing, exactly. I had an idea that the aerosols I was breathing, the conductive materials in the air, because I was getting kimmed so bad. So much chemical was in my ear. Right? Constantly these contracts releasing around me. That they was getting pulled to these areas where these implants were, but I didn't know for sure. So anyways, I was trying to break these implants, and what happened is the nanomaterial, the heavy metals, fell off. This is how I figured it out. Fell off around it. And what started as this big branching pain, I'd have these big branching pains around my body, okay? What happened after I used that welding tool, which I already used the ZVS driver and already had some results with it. After I used that tool, I could feel these tiny little pinpricks where before it felt like this huge branching network of pain. Now it was located in one spot. And it wasn't just one spot. It's just like it was a pinprick here, a pinprick here, a pinprick here. I felt probably the first few days I was doing this, 25, 30 of these things. You can
like
do this.
Shower.
No, it was a different feeling completely. It felt like a little pulse, like a little flick. It's kind of hard to describe. The directed energy weapons felt different. The directed energy weapons felt like a very slow wave. And then when it got to the implant, it felt like a little pulse. Slow wave, little pulse. And it felt all these things. And I was like, oh my God. And then I did this for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I was like, I'm not breaking them. But what I noticed is that it would go away and it would come back. And it would go away and it would come back. And if I did it 4, 5, 6 times a day, I had no pain. It was like I wasn't being targeted anymore, but I had to do it 4, 5, 6. That was taking up 3, 4 hours. So I wasn't breaking them, What I did after that is I got lucky, and I was searching, and I had heard of this idea sometime in the past to use an EMP for other means, and I was searching, and I came across, I had this idea, oh, that's right, pets have chips in them. Has anyone been able to stop the chip from working with using some sort of EMP? Well, that's when I came across James Shin. He had already figured it out. But he didn't know the nanomachinery heavy metal aerosol part of it. So he had done this back in 2000, whatever, 1920, something like that, 2020, I think. But because he didn't understand, and he didn't understand how directed energy weapons are either electrostatic. By the way, electrostatic, when you talk about scalar, use the term electrostatic, and you'll understand. You can look it up, and you'll understand more so. Because that's, when people say scalar, they mean one of two things. Normally, they mean electrostatic. So just use that term in the future. It'll help you out much more than using the term scalar. There's so much bullshit around the term scalar.
So could you say that when they give you a chemical smell, it burns your eyes, burns your nose, or a tobacco smell that you're smelling something smoking and it really irritates you because it stinks, that this is not that they're doing it in your house, they're doing it to your body, in your brain, and then your brain gets the impulse and the stimulation of the real deal, and therefore it is real within the TI.
So let me take it a step back further though. When you're breathing you're breathing aerosols. That's not, this is part of the whole disinfo, is they go, and again, if you're one of these people that have said these things by accident, it's no judgment. I don't, that's not the point. When you think about why they would scent the air, they would scent the air to disguise what they're doing with the air. You focus on the tobacco smoke, which is a fake tobacco smoke, by the way. It doesn't actually smell like tobacco. It smells like what you think tobacco smoke smells like. But tobacco smoke actually doesn't smell that bad. It's got like an aromatic, I won't say flavor, but smell to it. Like pipe tobacco genuinely smells pretty decent, almost like a candle or something sometimes, But this fake tobacco smell they use is repugnant. It smells like old cigarette butts that have been left out in water for a year, like a pile of them. It just smells awful. Yeah, it doesn't smell like a cigarette being smoked. Which isn't a great smell, but you know what I'm saying? It's a different thing. Anyways, what's happening is in the aerosols is nanomachinery and heavy metals.
That's it.
You breathe, you get this now? You breathe that stuff. They're always releasing it around you, or not always, but a lot of time. They're doing it through the sewers. They're doing it through the air around you, your neighbors, and they're doing it through the chemtrails. It's all the same thing. It's chemtrail-like particulate. This is the part. Hold on. This is the part you're missing. If you can understand this right now, your life will forever change. I'm not sugarcoating that. That's not an exaggeration. You've been dealing with this a long time. If you understand what I'm saying right now, your life will forever change. You breathe the aerosols. They get pulled electromagnetically to these tiny little implants that you get shot with. All right? You literally, sometimes people will get them during break-ins, the needling. Most of the time, though, you'll be out in public, and you'll go, God, something just hit me. And you'll look there, and you won't see anything. It'll feel kind of like a bug bite or like a splinter hitting you. That's what these implants are. They shouldn't even be called implants, really. But what they do is they create an electrostatic pulse, okay? The pulse is counterspatial. You don't need to focus on it. Doesn't matter. It pulls the material to it. So you breathe the material, you eat the material, you drink the material. It gets pulled to all these little implants. Once it gets pulled to the implants, it self-assembles from implant to implant. Now you have a conductive pathway. That's what the directed energy weapons are accessing.
Exactly.
That's how the whole thing works.
Yeah.
So you asked me.
It's not happening around you. This is something that is psychologically induced because they have your brain, and then therefore they can induce any smell, any feeling, any thought, any suggestion.
No. We got somebody talking. That's not our friend here. That's the disinfo. That's the bullcrap. Everything, the psychological manipulation of your brain, that's the not real part. That's all nonsense. That's all what I've been...
Andrew, 1 second. In defense of what Nanoman is saying, over 20 years, I have noticed, sitting at home, all of a sudden, I'm smelling something like maybe a cologne, perfume from years ago.
Yep.
With somebody else. So how is that possible?
I'm telling you.
PO from somebody, and there's nobody around.
I'm trying to tell you guys, but it's just going right over you. But if you listen to what I'm saying, really engage with what I'm saying here, okay? There are human traffickers, security contractors near you. One of their main jobs, this is true of every target, and I think you and Sinesh are targeted. I don't doubt you one bit, neither of you. Okay? One of their main jobs is to release aerosols, chemtrail-like particulates. They cover those chemtrail-like particulates up with different scents. They can cover it up with a BO smell, a poop smell, a tobacco smell, a shampoo smell, any smell whatsoever, because they're just mixing it in, and they're putting it into various apparatuses to get it aerosolized, to get it in the air. Once it's in the air, it's moved around, just like weather weapons, just like the chemtrail. They can move the chemtrail around. They create storms with the chemtrail. They're doing the same thing on a micro scale in your environment.
Yes, but that's not, hey, Andrew, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, let me give you an example. I quit smoking maybe 8 years ago. I'm thinking about something, all of a sudden I can smell cigarette smell, like somebody smoking next to me. Or I'm thinking about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you because that is in your brain.
No. Listen, and you don't have to believe me. You do not have to believe me at all. That is not in your brain. That is in your environment. It's being drifted to you in an aerosol. It's basically chemtrail particulate They've used a scent, whatever scent that you're going to think is in your brain and not there. It's in your environment. That's why it burns your eyes, it burns your nose, it makes your mouth dry. You're actually breathing chemtrail-like particulate. Okay? That's not an illusion. You think they're going to trick your brain into smelling? They don't know how to do that. Nobody knows how to do that. There's no proof of that anywhere. Okay? What there is infinite amount of proof of is what I'm talking about. Chemtrail-like particulates that are scented differently. Okay? You breathe that. It goes into your lungs. From your lungs to your bloodstream. From your bloodstream to wherever in the body. It can be pulled with electrostatic weapons or implants throughout your body, either one or both. Okay? When it gets there, it makes a conductive, reflective heat sink, refractive, reflective, whatever word you want to use there. Heat sink. Okay? Now, when the mostly magnetic, or just to say directed energy weapons, doesn't matter, we'll figure out electrostatic and magnetic later. When the directed energy weapons are interacting with your body, how they're doing that is they're interacting with that deposited material in that part of your body, and that's getting heated up or cooled down. More often than not, it's being heated up. If it's heated up in the right proportion, a little bit of electricity can be generated. When that little bit of electricity is generated, it's moving along this artificial conductive pathway, artificial nervous system, let's call it, or conductive pathway more accurately. And that's where you're getting your symptoms from. You can go out and you can do a cave 10,000 feet under the, or that's exaggeration, excuse me, 500 feet under the ground. If you have nanoparticulate in you, these conductive pathways, this chemtrail-like particulate you've breathed, they can use extremely low frequency at that point, which makes a huge wavelength, 200, 300-foot wavelength, that literally travels through the earth, and it would still be interacting with you. The problem, the big problem here, and this is the big secret, is the conductive material in your body, which is mostly given to you through aerosols. But it also comes in your food. The corporate food supply is full of it, and the air, like the chemtrail air. But mostly, it's being released around you in these aerosols. These smells you're smelling are not your imagination. They are very much there. Again, that's why they dry your mouth. That's why you have a problem swallowing. That's why your nose feels funny. That's why your eyes hurt. It's an aerosol. It's heating you. How is it heating you? They're using weather weapons. What are weather weapons? Directed energy weapons. The same similar weapon system that's hitting the surface of your skin is able to move the aerosols through the air. I don't know what's so hard about to get this. Do you understand? Please push back. I want you both to understand this because I've been saying this now for 7 months, 8 months. You both have heard me say it. Sorry if it sounds like I'm judging. I just want you guys to understand this. And if you think I'm wrong at the end of the day, that's another thing completely. Think I'm wrong, but understand what I'm saying.
Venezuela is not a small country. It's a huge country. He has a huge military. They're guarding him, everything. When this attack happens with the helicopters, all those around him, right at the moment when the attack is happening, instead of defending and taking action, they're puking blood and they're disorientated. Even the news says even Modelo, whatever his name is, he was all bloodied up.
Yeah.
So that tells you right there it's been done by some kind of weaponry remotely. Go ahead.
Okay. What I heard about that incident, I don't think necessarily that, I don't think it's true, by the way, just generally speaking, but let's just pretend that it is for the sake of this conversation. What I heard about that incident was that there was a small, very highly trained Cuban force that was his personal detachment. And I don't know, like 50 people, give or take. The Cubans, by the way, are the most highly trained military force outside of the NATO force here in the Western Hemisphere. So don't laugh at the Cubans. It sounds laughable because they barely have anything. But no, they do train their personnel. Their spies, their spooks, their commandos are pretty highly trained. Okay, that's who was guarding Maduro. knowing what I said is true earlier, that the elites of pick your country are all working together. Pick your two countries. Why do you think Venezuela and United States would be any different? Because the news tells you? No, Maduro is a CIA plant or whatever, U.S. Department, State Department, military, whatever plant. Most of those guys are. The ones that aren't are dealt with. That's what happened to Chavez. And he might have been a plant that just started doing his own thing, which was the case with Gaddafi, kind of. He was part of the royal bloodlines, Gaddafi was. But which the case with Saddam. Okay? So we see that play out. So let's say he was Saddam, right? He was part of it and then he decided not to be. First of all, he would have got sodomized with a knife just like Gaddafi. But let's just say even that wasn't the case, because that's what happened to Gaddafi, by the way. Getting off, sorry. I just don't believe any of it, but let's just say it's true. To get those weapons to interact at that scale, you would need conductive material in the body. When you're thinking about directed energy weapons, this was so hard for people to grasp. It's so incredibly hard, but it's, for me, I don't know. You just got to experiment with it. Everything is of scale, okay? It's like, if I'm going to make, I don't even know how to talk about this. If I'm going to make ant tunnels through the dirt, I probably need ants. If I'm going to move boulders, I'm going to need equipment that can move boulders. If I'm going to make a mountain, I'm going to need equipment to get my point. It's of scale. When frequencies are etheric, this is what frequencies are. And the science, the physics of this is another part. It's not your fault. It's hidden from the public. Frequencies are etheric physics. Etheric physics is all about pressure modalities, meaning that when I compress one area, it forms a tension on the other side. So this area gets compressed. I was explaining this last week. I wish I had a shape. Okay, this shape actually, this is how ancient magic works, okay? I'm sorry for sounding condescending, that wasn't the point. But this is like all those witches and all those people into this stuff. This is the deepest level of the reason they draw pentagrams, all that stuff. This is why it works, okay? This is important for understanding frequencies. This box, the shape of this box, is bouncing and refracting the natural energies of the ether or the substrate in which everything exists, okay? Space and time only exist because the ether is there. Before there was a space or a time wave, there was ether. That's not quite right, but that'll be good for this conversation. This is going to be important. You're going to get this in a second, I promise. Well, maybe you won't get it, but this. I swear to God, this is honest to God truth. This shape is bouncing off. It's bouncing off light. It's bouncing off sound. It's bouncing off everything, right? To a certain extent, until I put my fist through it. Once I put my fist through it, it's no longer bouncing off. It's being compressed by it. For me to affect this box, I have to be using the right scale. I cannot scream this box into compression. Okay? What is a scream? A scream is an electrostatic pressure modality. What is that? That is a compressional wavelength. I cannot scream it. I could take a lighter and I could heat it, right? And I could burn it, and that would interact with it. I have to deal with this thing as it is. Why am I bringing this up? Your body is the same way. I can't just put a frequency. I can't just bombard this with millimeter wave and get it to deform, or 6G or 8G or whatever G you want. I can't. It can't be done. It cannot be done. Well, maybe with the right proximity and the right arrangement around it, we could get this cardboard box to deflate. Maybe, right? And that would require very high level electrical engineering and physicists work. But they would probably do it with enough study and again, the proximity and the right arrangement of directed energy weapon, they could get that box to compress. Why do you think they can do it to your body? All right? The only way we can do this to the box, everybody knows this, it's so obvious, right? Is with different material resonating within the box. Meaning, if I put a steel ball in the middle of this box and I heated that steel ball up with, say, induction, which is magnetic waves, that's what induction is, like an induction stovetop, it's the same thing. And I heated that ball up in the center of this cardboard, I could catch that ball on fire, that steel ball on fire, and that would burn this up. Same thing is happening to you. Same exact thing is happening to you. These energy weapons don't just exist by themselves. There has to be conductive material in you to cause the reaction that you're getting. That's probably always been the case. Back when they were doing these experiments the first time back in the Tavistock era, or before that, World War I, when they were inducing the population with radio frequency, guess what else they were doing? They were fortifying the bread with iron. It's probably always been this way, because I can tell you firsthand that when you don't have this conductive material held up at different parts of your body, and they go and hit it with directed energy weapons, you know what it feels like? It feels like this box going like that, being just vibrated from the outside. It's a hell of a lot different than being heated up, burned up, electrified. It's night and day difference. I can feel it. I feel it right now. I feel it. You know what it feels like? It feels like a little pressure on the back of my head, just going in and out. You can't see my hand, but it's just going like that. Doesn't hurt, but I can feel it. If there was nanoparticulate there, I would be able to feel a lot worse than that. It would be giving me that headache, that pain that we all have all the time. That's how it's working.
Tweet, tweet, tweet. Tweet, 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 tweet. Ooh, 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 ooh.